Stop it.
You know what time it is, John? Hey everybody, it's your boy Chris, aka Mr. Fantastic. With me as always, the boy John.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome back to another episode of the Off Air Podcast. Our last podcast of the year, last podcast of the decade, man. We are at the event horizon. The year is ending, the decade is ending. We're moving on to 12,020. Or 2020 if you don't believe in previous 10,000 years of human history, but who cares? 2020, So normies will call it. Anyway, we have an awards show today, ladies and gentlemen. Streaming community.
Yeah, we're doing a very interesting award show.
Focusing on games and movies of both the year and the decade.
Of course.
In its entirety. 2010 to now 2019.
It's a very interesting 10 years that passed by.
Yeah, it's been fun. I gotta say we've been spoiled in terms of video games and movies. Like it was, I will say, I'm gonna say this right now. We might have to repeat ourselves, but I'm just saying right now as a disclaimer, it was extremely difficult coming up with our lists.
We cried, we fought, mostly fought.
As far as the process, we came up with our own lists, and then we compared them, come up with a master list for each category. As well as we have a few standalone awards this evening, but yeah, I mean, we had to consider what we enjoyed personally. We're also gonna give our personal top threes for each category. But it took a lot of extensive research on ratings and sales as far as, downloads for games and ticket sales, box office sales for these movies, the ratings over various platforms, but whether it be Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, or IGN for games, or Common Sense. There's a lot of extensive research and negotiating on what we consider, and in the end, this is our opinions. There are plenty of other lists you can look at. This isn't anything official. In fact, this is a discussion. Let us know in the comments from the chat what you guys think about our lists. If there's anything on this that we don't mention, or what your favorite game or movie of the year or the decade was, let us know in the comments or in the chat. This is all open to discussion, of course. With that being said, do we want to go ahead and get started?
Of course.
So let's start off with video games of the year. All right, our list for games of the year. And this one for this we're going to go straight through. We will have honorable mentions for games of the decade when we get to that. So starting at number 10, Tetris 99.
It was a very interesting game, seeing it again.
Yeah, a new take on Tetris, right?
Yeah.
Tetris, best-selling game of all time, and a new adaptation for the Switch. Tetris 99. Fun game, great way to spend your time, and reminiscent of Tetris, in different ways. Can't really go wrong there. Not necessarily a complete remake. But it is still Tetris.
This is the only time I can say I'm fine with a battle royale. Technically, it is, but there was always games like that. Well, actually, the official Tetris games were what's called the Grandmaster Edition. They do have a versus mode.
Oh yeah,
exactly like that. Where every time you get a Tetris or a removal of a line, it adds it to your opponent.
Yeah. So. Definitely a cool take on a classic game.
I wouldn't say it's a cool take. I'm saying it's more of an extension of the original games.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Tetris is something people have enjoyed for generations now, ever since on the Game Boy back in the early 90s.
Back on the original Russian computer. That's where it came from. It was all green text.
It's crazy.
You Ruskies.
Well, next on number 9, Super Mario Maker 2.
Of course, Mario Maker 1 was very
It's a great game.
It was a great game.
Yeah. You know what? You make it. You make your own game.
All right, you guys want to? You think you can do better?
Yeah, you think you can do better than the original Mario, one of the greatest games of all time.
And then
make it yourself.
And then they made Dark Souls and basically Super Mario.
Oh, people made monstrosities on this game. It's beautiful, really.
It's beautiful. Sit back and see. I won't say a garbage fire. It's more of a holy shit. Why?
I mean, let's just say people get really creative with the games that they've been able to build with Mario Maker, and now with 2, even more levels of customization. You're able to make classic Legend of Zelda,
of course,
platforming maps in it.
Again, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with the game. I'm saying it's very. If you give us the right tools, people get creative.
Absolutely, well, that's the whole point. Yeah.
But yeah,
it's definitely one of these games that are open to your creativity, but also still enjoying the classic formula that is Mario and Nintendo. So next on number 8, we have Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Sword and Shield. We saw a next step for Pokemon where it's finally fully fleshed out in a 3D world.
Yeah, this is the first Pokemon game
on console.
Technically, aside from Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee last year, but we didn't really people didn't really count those.
It's not part of the main franchise.
Exactly, because it was a return to Kanto to the first generation. It was more of a way to introduce Pokemon to the Switch. This is the first actual franchise installment of Pokemon on a console that has been fairly successful. New fans and old fans love it. With new introductions in the Pokedex. A lot of us were disappointed with the concern that we didn't get a full national dex, but aside from that, it's really a great gameplay experience on the Switch, and with new methods of playing. I gotta give it to Nintendo on this one.
Nintendo took some creativities from Pokemon Go. Yeah, you could see some implementations from the game.
Yeah, they basically made their own version of raiding in it.
Raiding,
which is really cool.
Training and finding shinies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they expanded pretty significantly. We were definitely able to see this coming with how Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee was influenced by Pokemon Go, as it was kind of an extension to Pokemon Go with having the Pokeball Plus.
Right.
They were able to take games out. You were able to take Pokemon out of the game and put them on your phone.
So on and so forth. For
yeah.
Switch, or you can send your Pokemon from your phone to your Switch.
Yeah, to
later train.
Yeah, to what we were saying, this cross-platform adaptability between mobile and console that we haven't really seen before. And Nintendo is continuing to be very innovative in this way. Next, on number 7, Outer Wilds.
The indie game, not Outer Worlds.
Yeah. So Outer Wilds. So just to review real quick for some of you may not know about it, it's a first-person open-world mystery game about a solar system that is trapped in an endless time loop. It was developed by Mobius Digital, and actually it was published by Annapurna Interactive. With Microsoft.
Great to see them again.
Right? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a hot.
Aside from them being associated with making Godzilla movies earlier this decade.
Yeah.
A really, really cool experience there with Outer Wilds. In fact, that even took much higher spots in other lists from
Outer Worlds.
No. On some lists, it surpassed Outer Worlds. But I'm saying Outer Wilds took top 5 to number 1 spots on lists by Polygon and Games Radar. So a lot of people really enjoyed this game. If you haven't checked it out, I gotta recommend it. Next, at number 6, we have the Untitled Goose Game.
Of course, I keep forgetting the developer's name. I think House.
Yes, and published by Panic.
Of course. Untitled Goose Game, the meme of the year.
Sure.
Essentially, it's a meme that is like.
Oh, it's a meme.
it's a meme that became real, and everyone's like, "Oh, you weren't joking."
Oh, it's real. In fact, this is also one that got pretty highly recommended and highly rated on a lot of other lists. To break it down really quick, it's a puzzle stealth game where, basically you're a goose harassing, terrorizing English villagers. That's the game. It's a lot of fun though. It's a great pastime game. It's a great indie game.
I want photos of Goose. He's a menace.
I think it's great.
Love it.
Yeah. Next on number 5, Luigi's Mansion.
Luigi's Mansion.
Luigi's Mansion. This one had to make our list. We're huge fans of Luigi's Mansion.
I'm just a fan of Luigi himself. I don't give a shit.
No, I
can't say anything good about Mario. That red menace. Joking.
No, Luigi's Mansion. A great return. And great installment for the Nintendo Switch. I think it's ridiculous that that we couldn't help but to put 4 spots by Nintendo on our list.
Yeah,
they really had a great year.
Which was also crazy because also seeing Luigi's Mansion having 8-player co-op.
Yeah,
which is insane.
That's unreal. It's unbelievable.
Because
but
it's very interesting seeing the game again being back up in the spotlight.
It's cool the direction that Nintendo is taking with interplay and multiplayer with their games between Pokemon, with Super Smash Brothers in general only getting bigger and bigger.
Right.
And now Luigi's Mansion having a really big co-op. It's almost like every game is turning into its own specialized version of Mario Party. Not that I'm against it. I think it's really cool.
What next? Mario Party?
I hope so.
Mario Party squared?
12-person Mario Party?
Stop it.
20-person Mario Party.
You want to ruin a family?
I want to be able to play Mario Party at a frat house and everyone can pick up a controller. Everyone.
That's how we cause a fight.
Next on our list, number 4, Gears of War 5.
Yes. Of course, it brings back and continues the story of Gears of War.
Yeah.
In general, this time we see brand new environments, from the ice biomes to the red sandstorms.
Oh yeah, and great expansions on this game too.
It's really great because playing on PC, which again, it's shocking to see on PC. Even though we had 4 on PC. God.
Yeah.
Just playing it and just seeing the red deserts, your footprints being covered by the sandstorm, or the snowstorm, breathing and just exploring the environment.
It's really well polished, I gotta say, and it was really a really exciting release at E3 this year. It got people. This is one that people were really hyped up for, and they Microsoft's team definitely delivered on this installment.
Especially from the E3 this year, they didn't show anything, just enough for you to be interested. Of course, multiplayer got their Terminator DLC. Dave Bautista.
Yep.
I can't keep forgetting about him, but come on.
Yeah, it's badass. I gotta say, it's awesome.
And of course, they introduced a brand new game mode.
Yeah.
That basically revitalized another section of the game.
Yeah. In terms of gaming, Microsoft has had a pretty good year, especially, I just gotta say, because they're expanding their library into Steam.
And Steam is allowing to basically do crossplay between them.
It's really the best thing ever for Gears of War and for Halo, and Microsoft has definitely had a good year, especially with this new installment. So I got to give it to them for that. And number 3, Control.
Yes.
A very innovative game in terms of gameplay and story. This thing was compelling and also it's consistently been in top 5, top 3 amongst every list out there. I mean, people are eating this game up.
Of course, we got Remedy, the original developers of Max Payne, Alan Wake.
Yep.
I forgot their last game. Shoot.
I don't know, but this game was just so well polished. Had a great release, great gameplay and story implementations.
Of course, great mechanics of the game.
Yeah, and what else to expect from Remedy too? I mean, this is just adding to their already impeccable resume, and this is really taking the cake for some of the best games one of the best games of this year. Everyone is keeping it amongst their favorites, and it's definitely one of our favorites.
Of course.
So now number 2, we talked about this game either in the last stream or the one before. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Surprisingly, yes. It's surprising to see it on the list.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's because this has just been a great comeback for like a. It's just good to be back experiencing a action adventure Star Wars game. Yes. You know what I mean? Like Battlefront is great, but to be back in the hands of a Jedi and also in a new perspective, in a new setting of this franchise's universe, is just icing on the cake.
Yeah, I haven't had so much fun since Force Unleashed.
Yeah, exactly, and also with great like finely tuned gameplay and story implementations. We talked before about just how unique the experience is with this game. Especially when compared to previous Star Wars.
Yeah, especially since most of the game is somewhat a little bit fast paced, but until you get to the combat, which is so smooth and slows it.
So satisfying.
The only time I'm fine with a game slowing down is just during combat.
Yeah, it's so satisfying and just a great time to play, while still bringing something new to the table for longtime fans. So definitely got to appreciate this one as our number 2 spot. And our spot for our number 1 favorite game of the year, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. I mean, I gotta give it to From Software.
From Software is always gonna be at the top of because they
to
know,
me personally. I mean, in terms of AAA titles, like this one was really impressive. It didn't compromise. It's a great story, great gameplay. It's good all around, in my opinion.
I mean, I'm still crying every time I play the game. Whether
it's not an easy one.
Whether the enemies fall out of the sky from no reason, or basically you just suck at the game.
Yeah. So an interview for this one. It's in the Sengoku period of Japan. Shinobi known as Wolf taking revenge on a samurai clan who attacked him and kidnapped his lord. And you're on your own. You're a badass ninja. Okay, you're a badass ninja killing samurai, and it's not only is it just like a really fun game to play, a very difficult game, but that's what makes it fun. It's kind of like a Dark Souls kind of feel. Being From Software.
Of course, there is no difficulty meter.
No.
No.
Get good. You get good. Simple as that.
Imagine Devil May Cry. I forgot. I think it was 2 from Japan.
Yeah.
Except they don't make it easier.
Yeah, but I really love the atmosphere and the world they built with the Sengoku period, or like the, this feudal period of Japan, as well as its implementations of a classic true shinobi style combat. Whether it be the selection of weapons or just the overall atmosphere of the game, I think is really well done. I think it's just really icing on the cake on top of this gameplay. Yeah. So that's our list for 2019, and we're just getting started. We still talked about this whole decade.
As of course, I recommend sit back, have a popcorn, pull us up in the background.
Yeah, because this is where the real discussion starts. All right, we talked about this year. We have a whole 10 years of games to talk about. All right.
If you guys want to argue and tell us why we're wrong or why,
feel free. We're open. We're
open. We're always gonna be open.
It was a pain in the ass enough for just to get us to agree on one list, and we're also gonna have our personal top 3 picks. With the list that we're giving, we try to stay unbiased as possible, looking at what the community really liked in terms of ratings and sales, and what really influenced the gaming industry and community as a whole. But whether it be streaming or competitive, a lot of thought was put into the list, but we also have our personal picks, and yeah, all of this is still up for discussion. Again, this is just our opinions, and this is all discussion,
right.
In a way, it is our award show, but I mean, this is video games are media, and it's art, and it is subjective. All right, so let us know what you think. So we have our list for the decade. You want to start off?
Give me 1 second.
Okay. This first one's a good one.
Starting from the number 10 for game of the decade, we are starting with Monster Hunter World.
Released in 2018. Not too long ago. A relatively new game, but still sold a ton of copies, and people would just,
Not only that, but we're also recently getting a brand new, well, if you have it on Xbox or PS4, you have it already, this brand new expansion pack where it gives you a brand new world, brand new items, and of course, brand new enemies.
Yep.
But that's not the only reason why we put it on the list. Monster Hunter World, you basically play the main Monster Hunter. You're not the monster, you're not the god character.
Right, you're not the main protagonist.
You're just another person. Like, hey, you're another grunt in this chain of events.
Exactly.
Of course, the reason why I really picked this game is because it's very innovative on their mechanics.
Oh yeah.
From the beginning, it's like, all right, choose any weapons from the weapons. I believe it's 12 different weapons you can choose. You want to play with friends? You can play with friends. Up to 4-player co-op.
It's definitely a really flexible and open-minded game, which really sets it apart in this decade, especially with we throughout this decade we had a lot of upsets and disappointing releases with especially with online games, with games being incomplete at release. This game had a great release and has had a lot of appreciation in the community in terms of its gameplay, its flexible playability.
Of course, community managers are always listening to the players. Of course, seasonal holidays always are celebrated in game.
Yep.
Like right now, they have the quote unquote Blossom Festival, where it's celebrating the end of the year.
It's great.
Would you like to bring us on to the next?
Right. So in number 9, we chose Max Payne 3, released in 2012.
Yeah, back when we thought the world was gonna end.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah,
but nope, we got Max Payne 3.
Max Payne 3, I personally chose. I brought it to the table because it's a game where you're playing basically a beaten down man.
John was fighting for this one. I'm like, dude,
it's
Max Payne 3 is great.
It's great because it's the end of an arc.
Yeah,
a lot of players, a lot of fans of the series. Some of them disagreed. Some of them liked the game.
This is a more controversial pick, but
very controversial. But in terms of the end of a story, it leaves you a little bit satisfied. But of course, you always want more.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Max Payne is a franchise that's been around for a long time, and this last release was definitely one that was satisfying for many, I would say.
Of course.
Yeah. We want to move on to number 8.
Number 8, Doom 2016.
Oh yeah.
This we both really agreed on.
The heavy metal, demented tearing of flesh and
mostly we picked this game.
Machine guns and just lost into insanity. I love it. Doom is an experience.
Doom was picked because of both visual, well, not both, because of these main reasons. It was visually appealing. The original soundtrack was basically one of the best of the decade. I want to personally say.
Okay.
Because one, it brings back the original soundtrack from original Doom,
but rebuilt from the ground up.
Rebuilt, remodified, reimagined.
Yep.
And of course, the high-paced gameplay.
Absolutely. You can
from the moment you start, you probably won't stop ripping arms off until
it is an addictive experience to be had. You will be sucked in for hours on this game.
Of course, we're always going to be expecting the brand new game to bring more innovation.
Yep.
But until then, you can play Doom 2016.
Right. We are still looking to Doom Eternal eventually. When that game comes out, we'll have that review. But for now, Doom definitely deserves a spot on our list for best games of the decade to us anyway.
Of course, you can play the game on hard and even on nightmare mode, where if you die, you start the whole game over again.
Essentially, it's ghosts and goblins mode.
And of course, just to tease you, until you get to that same spot, you'll see the same skull where you died.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and you want to move on next?
Absolutely. So at number 7. Fallout New Vegas, released in 2010. That one started our decade strong. This one was definitely a non-negotiable. This one had to be on our list.
It was a very controversial game once it came out, not in terms of what it was, but what was behind the game.
Right, with it being by Obsidian, the original
Fallout creators.
Yeah, original studio of the first 2 Fallout games.
It was some of the original creators.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some members of the original team. And it definitely did not disappoint. I mean, to this day, I mean, there's a great community around Fallout New Vegas, between modding and basically and what's playing and streaming. I mean, it's definitely one that at the time did not compromise and did not disappoint. Definitely actually surpassed expectations for many.
Even though the game though the game originally was rushed, in the state it was actually left in, it was surprising how well it is.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, on top of that, all the DLCs for New Vegas,
from Lonesome Road
to that made the
Old World Blues.
That made, and Dead Money, that made the game for some people. So it's nothing like, going back into the Mojave, Lone Wanderer.
Well,
New
Courier.
Vegas.
You were the Courier.
Oh, that's my bad.
Yeah. Fallout 3 was Lone Wanderer.
Yeah, that one wasn't as good.
Liam Neeson. That's it. All right.
But no, New Vegas definitely deserves a spot on our list. What was the point that I feel like some people are gonna want it to be higher, but let's just progress.
Number 6, we're gonna be talking about the I want to say the relatively unknown game, Minecraft 2011.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Minecraft.
Wait a minute, what year is it?
No, Minecraft will be on every top 10 list you can find about games of the decade. I mean, Minecraft, it's an indie title. Also, just to mention, first of all, we understand. Minecraft was publicly available in 2009. However, it was fully published by Mojang in 2011. And it was such a big influence these last 10 years, we had to put it on our list. In fact, we can help but to rank it significantly high on our list.
I'll probably say this is the one game I played at least once every year since it came out.
Yeah, it's a versatile game that we could always all go back to. It's come and gone. It's a meme. It's merchandise. It's everywhere. But it's still a very fun game. I mean, and has such a significant impact in every corner of the gaming community, between Let's Plays and streaming and massive servers and the modding community.
It's insane.
I mean, the
essentially
mod
now,
packs.
Just recently, they just made basically the game mod pack of basically a version of Dark Souls.
Yeah, and
it's insane.
And
but
as well as I think the biggest thing with Minecraft is just its versatility, but also simplicity. Even though it's been even though it's still a growing and updating game every year, it's simplicity and freedom that you can do pretty much whatever you want with the building and crafting format that Steve Notch implemented. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah,
simple, not a AAA title, but it deserves a spot on our list for sure.
And of course, it's a game anyone can pick up.
No
tutorial.
Yeah,
you can figure it out.
Yep,
you can play it on easy,
simple,
hard,
and straightforward, and with options of difficulty as well.
Of course, it's basically a color palette. Anyone can choose anything.
Exactly. It's yeah.
If not, fight me.
All right. So next,
number 5.
Warframe
2013.
Of
course, it's a lot of people are going to say, "Wait a minute, what?" 2013. It felt like it's been out forever.
Warframe has been around for a hot minute. But it was this decade, and a big and appreciated one in the community as well.
It's a game that will always be in everyone's heart, not only because of what it is, but who it's made by. The developers, from the moment it's been out, it's been free to play. They try to put microtransactions and then pulled it within the same hour they put it in. Because they realize this is a game that's basically led by the community. The community's loved, and basically they show it back to the developers.
Absolutely. There's a deep appreciation for Warframe, really setting it apart. Like I said earlier, with a long 10 years or so of upsets and incomplete games released, and with the influence of microtransactions and even gambling is now in games. We talked about this controversy before. Warframe really stands out not only as a great game to play, but also a open free to play game that's much appreciated by the community everywhere.
As of course you can spend money in game
if you want,
but it's just only cosmetics.
Exactly.
Of course,
is that so hard? EA, Bethesda.
That's an option, but guess what? You can also earn the same credits in game.
How about that?
Sounds crazy.
In game credits? You mean
stuff I can work hard?
I have to spend money. I can just play the game to unlock stuff.
As of course, this does fall under the same category.
And it's still an online game. What?
It falls under the category as pure free to play.
Yep.
It's pure. It's free. You can play it.
It's pure. Something so pure, so unattainable.
It's just water.
Pure water. No, Warframe is a great game. That definitely deserves a spot on our list with being free to play and open and just much appreciated by the gaming community everywhere. Next, this is another non-negotiable. I mean, this one might still be controversial, but I mean, I think everyone can agree that this has been on pretty much every list too.
As much as I want to argue with the developers, I do appreciate the game. I mostly appreciate the modding community.
Yeah, but ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about Skyrim, the game of the year back in 2011, released on 11/11/11. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, probably the last truly impressive title by Bethesda, solely by Bethesda.
And a lot of people are going to say, what about Fallout 4? We don't talk about that game until we get Fallout Miami, but we're not going to talk about that yet.
That's the modding community. That's different.
Modding.
But that's part of what makes this game so great, is the modding community, as well as just its release. I mean, sure, Skyrim didn't have a perfect release, but it was one that was quickly patched and improved
by the community.
Nonetheless,
of course,
but for its time, I mean, for its size and detail, it was still very impressive and set a new standard at the beginning of our decade.
As of course, Todd promised unlimited side quest, unlimited quest.
It's a lot.
Technically, he was right, because the modern community later made that possible.
Yeah, no, but that's besides the point. Skyrim is still a great game. There are people there's still thousands, millions of people playing it today, every single day, whether it be the vanilla game, probably not the vanilla game, but nonetheless. I would say Skyrim is still of big influence, and it's definitely huge influence in the industry, and still a great game to go back and play. It's made several lists for obvious reasons. I mean, it had very well done gameplay and a lot of options in terms of quest and playing style.
As of course, it does spawn some memes.
Of course, but I mean, what good game doesn't spawn a few good memes? Hey man, we were just talking about the Untitled Goose earlier.
Yeah.
So moving on.
Let me guess, someone stole your sweet roll.
So at number 3,
we're talking about the wonderful and great game by another wonderful publisher. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild came out in 2017. Yes.
Yep. 2017.
Yeah, just
Breath of the Wild. This was one that I told John, if this was not on the list, if this wasn't even in the top 5, we were going to get crucified, because this is
not only that,
because this is Nintendo's Dark Souls.
Don't tempt them. You don't understand what Shigeru Miyamoto would do.
He'll do it. I want it. It's not hard enough. I want it. Do it. They're making the second one.
All right, guys. Please press pause. I'm going to show Chris the wonderful speedrun of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which took 30 fucking minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the game...
It's too short. I want a harder one.
Anyways,
no, but Breath of the Wild was an impeccable game. I mean, in terms of its reintroduction, redesign of the much beloved classic Legend of Zelda in a finally open world with several quests, but still a take on the story we all know and love.
Of course, you start as the wonderful Mr. Zelda.
What?
Sorry, I was just told by a producer. I'm sorry, it's Mr. Link.
Yeah.
Link of...
I could have told you that.
Yeah.
But Link is back in action, fine, and
you wake up nude, as you should.
Yeah, awake after... What? Anyway.
After 100 years from partying with the boys. He kicked back a...
Can you at least try to take this game seriously before one of us gets killed by a Nintendo fanboy?
Oh,
you know people are going to be listening to this.
Of course. Come on. Everyone.
Look.
Listen, it's a good game. Go buy it.
Like, in terms of, like, in every part of the gameplay and with no compromises, like, Nintendo really delivered on this one. They were working on this one for years between its size, its pretty impressive animation.
And, of course, its art style.
It's art. Yeah, exactly.
It's art. You can spend hours just looking at the landscape.
It's a pretty gorgeous game, especially for a Nintendo game,
and especially for how big it was for a launch title.
It was a huge. It's
a launch title.
Yeah, and exactly, and it's one of the biggest games, if not the biggest game Nintendo has ever released.
As of course, everyone's list for the decade, some of them are number one.
Exactly. So I was saying, it's like, hey man, if this isn't at least in top 5, I mean,
no,
bye.
I know a lot of you guys are saying, wait. If everyone's saying it's number 1, why is it number 3? Well, we're going to explain now with number 2.
Portal 2, 2011.
It's a wonderful Valve game.
It's a work of art.
That's it. Enough said. No, I'm joking.
No, Portal 2 is a masterpiece of its own in terms of story and gameplay. It is truly a work of art and co-op.
You imagine Monopoly. Instead of pissing off 3 other friends, you can just piss off one friend. One-on-one.
But no, Valve really... Valve already did an amazing job with innovating gameplay in the first Portal. Then they expanded it and expanded the story in Portal 2 in an astronomical way.
Basically, they laid out all the cards.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
From either the writing all the way to the very... character development, and
they really surpassed expectations. I mean, they went above and beyond in delivery for Portal 2, and we're still waiting on for them to count to 3. But
which is shocking. Here's the thing: it's shocking for a game immediately to be a sequel, to be better than their first game.
Yeah,
and of course it's going to be much longer.
Yeah, and this is another one that was non-negotiable. That had to be in the top 3 of our list. It was almost number 1.
Yeah, I said to Chris, if it wasn't top 3, I'm walking permanently.
Hey, I wasn't going to disagree with him. Now, before we move on to number 1, we have a few individual awards. Do you want to say the first one?
All right.
It's a pretty big one that like this. First of all, this game set records, and I wanted it. I wanted so bad for it to be on our list, but it deserves this deserves
its very own award.
Yes. And we'll expand into that. So John, go ahead.
Of course, this game broke records before it even released.
And that's exactly what we're talking about here.
Of course, we're talking about the wonderful Grand Theft Auto 5 by Rockstar Games for best initial release, which broke records of $1 billion within, I believe, the first 48 hours.
It's only the 3rd most selling game of all time.
Of course, I was there to pick up my collector's edition of launch night. I know, because I was in, I want to say it was sophomore year.
Yeah.
No, freshman.
It was some, yeah, no, yeah.
It was freshman year.
Yep. GTA 5, really an impeccable game by Rockstar. Massive release, a massive game with really this is one that they really expanded significantly on the formula they already had so well down packed on GTA.
Of course, they refined the interesting engine from Grand Theft Auto 4.
Every part of GTA was refined on GTA 5. It is a masterpiece of Grand Theft Auto. Between the gameplay, the characters, the fact that you're even able to play several characters, the massive map. I mean, people are still playing it today. GTA 5 Online is technically a separate game, but I mean, this game broke records, and we couldn't have this cast without bringing it up.
Of course.
So we thought it deserved an award of its own simply on its impeccable release.
And of course, before we get on to number one, of course, we got one more other games. Two more.
We have three more individual
categories.
Individual awards.
Right.
Mind if I present the next one?
Of course.
So this next one is an indie title made by one man and one man only. This is another one that almost made our list, but I mean, we already had so many other good games that we had to compromise on. And this is our underdog award. This goes to an indie title that of pretty significant impact to the industry. I'm talking about Undertale. This is one that I was pushing for, but I know it's a little controversial considering how the fan base is, and it's not necessarily the most downloaded or most sold game, but I mean, it's an indie game,
of course,
done by one man, Toby Fox. Shout out to you. And this game, for its release, had a pretty significant impact, and I mean, it's a very well polished game, heavily inspired by Nintendo's Earthbound, and I mean, it's an indie game that got a character in Smash Brothers. Like, come on.
Well, somewhat.
Technically,
but
nonetheless, it's a massive, massive impact. A game designed by one person that had great design and story and gameplay and great design of characters. We had to mention Undertale.
Of course.
I had to do it. So that's the Underdog Award. You want to get the next one?
Of course. This is actually one of my personal favorites. It's always going to be a game talked about. Although I forgot to mention it in the game of the decade. It still deserves its own very award.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about the Alan Wake game for story-driven concept.
Mm-hmm.
The game, basically, you play as a writer.
Yep.
Who's basically, his own art becomes real.
Yep.
And you are always constantly fighting with the dark.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant and very innovative game.
Of course, it's made by the wonderful Remedy Studios again.
Mm-hmm.
It's very... I suggest, if you are a big fan of The Twilight Zone or Black Mirror, it's a game that basically was also inspired by The Twilight Zone in some ways.
Yeah.
I recommend you play it sometimes. It's probably on sale right now on Steam for
probably
$10.
It's a cheaper game, but definitely a great deal, a great game to check out for sure.
And then if you're done with that, you can pick up the DLC expansion, American Wasteland.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry, American Nightmare. Of course, it's a very fun. Well, I won't say fun. It's more of a thriller / horror game in a way. Of course, you can always play it anytime.
Now, this next award, this is our last individual award for games, so this award, basically, when we were talking about doing this whole award show with video games, John and I and a few of our friends, we were talking about our number one favorite games of the decade, as well as what we thought had the greatest impact. This game actually, we're actually debating about this for a little bit. But this award is for most influential game of the decade.
Of course.
This game impacted every area of the industry, every community.
It's mentioned in almost nearly every article.
I mean, people are still playing it today. Millions of people are playing this every day. Of course, this award has to go to Minecraft.
Of course.
This wasn't our number one pick, but I mean, in terms of Minecraft has affected every area of the gaming industry, whether it be streaming, let's plays, the merchandising, the YouTube community.
Essentially, it's the one that kickstarted the YouTube gaming side.
Exactly. I mean, this game, it should be credited for many successful channels on YouTube. It's in a league of its own.
It also gave the creator, the original founder, Notch, enough money to outbid Jay-Z to buy a mansion on the hills in Los Angeles. I kid you not, he outbidded Jay-Z.
Obviously, Minecraft has had a massive influence on this decade, and we know that people are going to be playing it in the next one. I mean, it's just massive. It's a monster that isn't going away anytime soon.
Of course.
Now we just have a list of honorable mentions before we announce our decided number one game of the decade. Should I just go down the list?
Yeah, I don't have that side of the list.
All right, so our honorable mentions, just to go through real quick, we had Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Of course.
Overwatch. Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yes.
The Last of Us. BioShock Infinite. The Walking Dead Telltale game.
Of course.
Assassin's Creed Origins. Call of Duty Black Ops. Super Mario Maker 2. Super Mario Galaxy 2. Super Mario Odyssey.
Yes.
God of War. Apex Legends. Battlefield 4. Batman Arkham City. And Life is Strange. Those are honorable mentions of other great games this decade. If you haven't played any of these, check them out. I don't know what you've been doing for these last 10 years. Probably just playing.
Well, guess what?
World of Warcraft. Great game, but come on. I mean, there's so many good games out
you
there.
got another 10 years before we have to yell at you again. So get on it.
And
although you're going to have to start with this one game.
Our number one, the best game of the decade, according to Phantastic Productions and the Off Air podcast. John, are you say it? You got to say it, man. Do it.
Of course, we're going to be talking about the wonderful, one and only Witcher 3.
Wild Hunt.
Of course.
A game that did not make any compromises on its release. A massive
game.
Incredibly well-polished game.
And not only that, it also added free expansions. And, of course, regular DLCs that added another game, essentially, to the game.
I mean, this is a game people log thousands and thousands of enjoyable hours into. And now it's coming to the Switch.
Yeah, it's shocking.
It's a massive game on several platforms. If you have not played it, I don't know what you're doing.
Of course, it's based off of the wonderful Witcher series of books.
I mean, you can just play this game and play nothing else, probably for the rest of your life. I don't even know
until next decade.
Until
we yell at you again for playing the other one.
Exactly, until 2029, we're talking about The Witcher 4 or something. I don't know.
Stop. Stop. We all know it's gonna be Cyberpunk.
Yeah, but this is a game that, like I said, it made no compromises. I mean, everything down to its detail, its massive size, options for playability, its impeccable gameplay. This is a game that we have to recommend and had to take our number one spot. And took number one, or at least top 5, in so many other lists.
Yeah.
I mean, this game is on every list you can find.
Personally, it's in my top 5.
Yeah.
Of course,
What actually, let's say that. So what's your personal top 3 for the decade, let's say?
Personal top 3, I'm going to start off with Mario Odyssey.
Mario Odyssey is a great one.
As a number 3.
Yeah.
Number 3, the reason why I picked Mario Odyssey is not only because I enjoyed playing another original 3D platformer. Mm-hmm. It kept reminding me of how much fun as a kid I used to play on the GameCube of Mario Sunshine.
Yeah.
Of course, you always have a sidekick, animate object. Mm-hmm. Even though it doesn't have so much voice acting as the original Sunshine, it still reminds me of how I used to come home from school, boot up the original GameCube.
Yeah, the GameCube.
The Black Edition one.
Yeah.
Load up my wireless controllers.
Oh, you were that kid.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then kick back on the couch and play it until I got yelled at to do my homework.
Yeah.
Of course, number 2 goes to Warframe.
Oh, yeah. Totally underrated.
Again, personally, Warframe meant more to me because of not only because of how it's a standard that should be put in the gaming industry.
Seriously, I mean, we'll be talking about this forever. I swear.
But as I mentioned in previous podcasts, it also honored one of the great late YouTuber named Total Biscuit, who was very critical on certain games, and he also helped shape the basically the gaming industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
huge impact.
For me personally, the number one right now is actually The Crew 2.
That's all you've been playing, dude. John talks to me about The Crew 2 like once a week at least. It's a great game though.
It's
a very well done racing game.
Every week it's a new update.
It's constantly growing.
Every 3 months it's a brand new vehicle update. They add in new vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Every week is a brand new challenge pack.
Yeah, and
as of course they celebrated their 1 year during the summer.
Yeah. And of all genres for racing, I mean, it's a very innovative game.
It revitalized my faith in the racing genre.
It makes you wonder why racing games in the past weren't made this way.
It made me question why I still play Need for Speed.
Need for Speed's still great, but no, for real, I mean,
yeah,
it makes you wonder, it's like, man, what have we been doing for the past 10, 15, 20 years with the racing games?
Of course. And it's this studio's second game.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they're always innovating. They're always listening to community.
For sure.
That's what will always get me hooked onto your game. Mm-hmm. As long as you listen to your community, mm-hmm. I will play until I can't breathe.
Okay.
Or until the game shuts down. But hopefully one of those hits first.
Well, I got a top three of my own. I got to say, because we've really been spoiled this decade with video games. I mean, like I said, there have been some upsets, but I mean, it was a great decade for games. For my top three, first of all, I gotta say BioShock Infinite.
Of course.
BioShock, first of all, is my favorite game of all time. I mean, and BioShock Infinite only expanded it so well in the story. I will say, gameplay-wise, it was still fun. BioShock Infinite was fun, especially in the 1999 mode. But I think the first game just had it done a lot better. But still, nonetheless, I mean, Irrational Games got back with Ken Levine, the original writer of the first game, and writer of System Shock as a throwback sci-fi horror game. BioShock Infinite was so well done in bringing a new perspective in games, and also just an amazing story. So that's my number three. Number two, I gotta say, is Breath of the Wild. I mean, it's just impeccable. Like it's that is craftsmanship on Nintendo's end with Breath of the Wild. I was thoroughly impressed. That was a title I was really looking forward to before release, and that I was more than satisfied when I finally got to play it.
Yeah.
And logged so many hours into. Absolutely. And I think the one game that I spent way too much time playing, that came out this decade, that is, it's Fallout New Vegas.
I was thinking something else, but
I mean, oh my god.
I mean, for some reason, our group just picked it up again.
Yeah,
our entire group.
That's the funny thing. And
I'm the last person to hold out, but
yeah.
I'm down. As of right now, my computer is downloading that game.
Yeah, and I've spent way too much time playing New Vegas to the point that it took me away from The Witcher 3, which is, I mean, that's also just me. I'm just so about like the stories and the aesthetic of Fallout New Vegas. Of the Mojave, I'm a sucker.
Listen,
it's such a well done game though, nonetheless.
All I gotta say is, patrolling the Mojave makes you kind of wish for
a nuclear winter. So that's games. That's games of the decade, games of the year. Again, let us know in the comments about what you think.
Tell me how I'm wrong.
Yeah. Let us know what your favorite game of the decade or favorite game of the year was, or if there's any game that we didn't mention that you enjoyed. I don't know. Maybe I don't know, maybe Year of... What game didn't we mention that was really good? I don't know. I think we did a really good job.
Yeah, we did.
Well, now we have two whole other lists because we are talking about movies. We had a
technically
great
3 movies. We have 3 lists.
We had a great decade for cinema.
And of course,
and a great year for cinema. Absolutely. So let's start with the year. Let's start with our picks for the top 10 movies of 2019. Right? I mean, one second to pull this up. Here we go. All right. So, number 10, a different horror film, controversial one that I personally enjoy, but maybe not too many other people enjoy it. I don't know. It's definitely a very strange movie. I'm talking about Midsommar. Very unorthodox horror film. I will say this is one that not everyone enjoyed, but this is one that got a lot of critical praise, and I think was definitely innovative in film, especially in the horror genre. I mean, this was a pretty impressive modern horror movie.
Yeah.
In terms of visuals and storytelling,
I'm gonna be honest.
Definitely a weird one, though. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm gonna be honest. I can't say I've seen it.
I will say this is not a movie for everyone, John.
Right.
I'm gonna break it down. We'll do. I don't want to do too many rough summary of each of these because we have a long list. We have long lists to go to.
More likely, we're gonna do it for the decades.
Yeah. For Midsommar, basically it's about a few young people that go and visit Sweden, I think it is, or no, Norway. It's Norway. Yeah. During the summer for a festival that apparently happens once every 97 years, and basically they're exposed to a very unusual and surreal cult-like experience. Most of them die.
Can't say I'm shocked.
It's a modern horror. That's what I gotta say about it. Midsommar, not for everyone, but in terms of what it brought to cinema this year, I had to put a spot on our list for it. So that's starting at number 10. And number 9, we got Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Of course, I personally enjoyed it because of I want to say the visual scenes with. I'm sorry,
Tom Holland.
Well, of course, from Tom Holland, see more character development, and
with his Spider-Man, especially with I don't know. This is one that was pretty impressed with.
I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the villain's name.
Mysterio.
Yes.
Yeah.
I especially enjoyed the scenes. Not to get too deep in it, but with Mysterio's illusions.
It was very impressive visually.
Because it followed to the T on how Mysterio and Spider-Man's bond and clash worked in the comics.
No, they definitely did a great job with this arc and with introducing this character to the MCU, and implementing him so well, as well as just continuing Tom Holland's Spider-Man. From here, with a lot of people were afraid that he was gonna get that he was gonna become the next Iron Man and so forth, and they were alluding to that, but I think they did a really good job with not going too far and really letting Spider-Man be his own character. And I think this was just, for so many reasons, that this was just a really important and a really good Marvel movie to me. This is actually one of my favorite Marvel movies in the MCU. I want to say, definitely. So this is definitely one that we had to put in our list for the year. So now at number 8, Rocket Man.
Of course.
Musical about Elton John.
That's it.
I mean, massive influence on the music industry, and a great way of showing his story. And very impressive vocals by the lead actor. I mean, unlike last year's Bohemian Rhapsody, which was a great movie in its own right.
Yeah.
And respect on their choices. But in Bohemian Rhapsody, they used Freddie Mercury's original vocals, which was a great choice. But in Rocket Man, all the vocals were new and done organically rather than using Elton's original vocal tracks.
As of course,
which I just had to say was a very impressive performance.
The movie actually spawned 2 different soundtracks. You can listen to the original vocals, or you can listen to Taron Egerton's version of the songs.
They also did a collaboration.
A duet
performance. Yeah, a duet. That was also very impressive. So I really got to give it to them. This was a really well done execution on showing Elton John's story. Next on our list, I chose Us, another modern horror done by Jordan Peele. Everyone knows he also did Get Out.
Is this the same Peele that made Mr. What's
this
called?
Is the
Key
same,
and Peele?
Yeah, the same dude from Key and Peele.
What?
He's got a thing for horror movies, man. He's very creative.
This comedian?
Man. Very creative man.
A comedian?
Very versatile in his craft.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not knocking against anything of Mr. Jordan Peele.
I think this movie was very impressive, both in its cinematography, its writing, its commentary, its acting. I think it was so well done.
Of course, he's time and time again he's showing his true colors of his actual writing artistics and directing.
Oh my god, yeah, like I said, very creatively versatile guy, very impressive. And everything in the movie was so well done. This is one that I would say you have to watch more than once to fully understand. This is not the most linear storyline that's meant to be fully understood. I mean, it's definitely there's a bit of a twist to it. So not one that's not one for everyone. Not one that's easily understood, but definitely a very impressive feature from this year. All right. Next on our list, Ad Astra. Great sci-fi film.
Very, very good.
Very visually impressive and very great acting from Brad Pitt and Tommy Lee Jones.
Of course.
I gotta say, impeccable performances.
I love the movie for how very detailed everything was.
Yeah, this is also one that's not for everyone. You weren't crazy about the movie when we saw it. It's not a satisfying movie.
Personally, I want to say it was where we saw it, but secondly,
that's part of it. We're not going to get into the story this time, but we were not in the best quality theater to see the movie, but nonetheless, it was pretty good.
Personally, I really enjoyed the visual the visuals. It was
the cinematography.
It was cinematography porn.
It was very visually impressive and very, very well done. I mean, you can just stare at these shots.
But it's another movie that I'm not going to rewatch. Yeah, I'll definitely rewatch it when it, of course, I think it's already out on DVD.
In terms of its narrative, it's not a satisfying film. It's not supposed to be. It's not. This isn't your happy ending film. But it was definitely very entertaining and very impressive in how it was crafted and its performance, in its writing, and definitely in its visuals. Absolutely. Next, another one that I will say is not for everyone, but very much beloved and got a lot of critical praise. I'm talking about Quentin Tarantino's latest film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, starring once again Brad Pitt, but also Leonardo DiCaprio, and a great performance from them.
Yes, of course.
Taking on roles that definitely were not very easy. I mean,
of course, it's telling, I believe, a very true story.
So, well, the story was inspired actually by the Charles Manson murders. But so this is another one of Quentin Tarantino's films, similar to say Pulp Fiction, for example, that shifts in perspectives. Mostly focusing on the perspective of two different actors, as well as one of the actors' stuntmen, played by Brad Pitt. So this is one that shifts perspective in its narrative, and is not too easily understood. But that's what gives it that's what makes it something to be appreciated, in how well done its narrative, how well done its story and dialogue is. Which is why people always come back to Quentin Tarantino. That was because he's like a
household name.
He's a household name and a cinema purist. I mean, he's the only guy still shooting on film and using, so many finely tuned methods of getting every shot to be perfect.
He's the one guy I can still see sitting in the editing booth late at night with a cigarette hanging out his mouth, just with the magnifying glass, looking at every single scene.
And a pair of scissors.
He's like, "Fuck, where did I leave that?"
Yeah, no, making actual cuts. Like, this is I think this is another one that's not this isn't necessarily for your casual moviegoer, not for too many people, but definitely still got a lot of critical praise, a lot of praise from fans, and definitely is very visually and narratively impressive. So, next, so now we're on our top 4. Next on our list for number 4 is John Wick 3.
Of course.
Another one that had a lot of praise from critics and fans alike. Just another badass violent thriller with Keanu Reeves.
Still angry.
Still angry.
Still angry. Something about his dog. We don't know about it yet.
Bringing back John Wick 3. Bringing back John Wick. Another great performance by Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves has had a hell of a year and a hell of a decade.
His final couple years of the decade has picked up.
From John Wick to Cyberpunk to SpongeBob. I mean,
to SpongeBob and now
Keanu
the
Reeves
Matrix again.
And back in the Matrix. I mean, Keanu Reeves had a great performance in this case, between the stunts and the acting as well. And there's another one that was very visually impressive. Gotta give it to John Wick. I mean, this one was kind of non-negotiable on our list here.
Of course.
For the year. All right. We're down to our top 3. For number 3, Avengers Endgame.
Of course.
This
the
one.
End of a decade.
Dude, the Endgame was the end of a phase, the end of an era. This was the last film signed, the last MCU film signed with Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans. Likely the last time we're really going to see their adaptations of Iron Man and Captain America, the spotlights of the MCU in its entirety thus far.
As of course, their co-stars are getting the torches passed on.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we've truly experienced the height of this franchise, and the MCU has done something never done before in cinema. We have never before had such a massive and so well done at that franchise than the MCU. I mean, something so massive in its variety of characters, its amount of films, and how consistently well done they all are. And Endgame was such a great cap to this era of this franchise. So to end this year, or rather to end this decade with that, I mean, I don't know what more you can ask for.
Of course.
Also, so many great memes born from it. But Avengers Endgame had to be here.
Hey, all I can say is I see this as a win-win.
I see it as a complete win. Absolutely. So at number 2 is another. It's another say comic book film, but
it's another film that we had to negotiate over.
But an unorthodox one, and a very impressive one narratively and visually. Definitely took this character to a new level, a new perspective. We're talking about Joker.
It's not a movie that, again, let me just say a quick statement. It's not a movie that highlights the good side of a villain. It's showing the downfall of a
man, of a character. And it's a great representation of the philosophy behind the character of Joker ever since the Bronze Age of comic books. And I gotta say, it reminded me a lot of The Killing Joke, Alan Moore's Batman comic from way back that originally told a adaptation of Joker's origin
as a failed comedian.
Yeah, exactly. But this one, not just from it being such a great film and an amazing performance from Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix and his supporting cast. Including Robert De Niro.
Yeah, and that was a different role for Robert De Niro. A minor and a
It was very interesting.
That was definitely a different role by Robert De Niro, but definitely one that was very well executed. But also very impressive visually, and the sound design in Joker was so finely tuned.
It's very meticulous on how each scene has a brand new mood, and you can easily identify and relate.
You can feel every beat change.
You can
throughout the film
without words expressed on certain scenes. You can see a man's psychology change in real time,
and it's insane how relatable they make the character all the way up to peak and descent. I mean, it's just an amazing arc. It's an amazing film. I don't know what you've done this year if you haven't seen it. Check it out. Seriously.
Course, it's a movie.
And honestly, it's up there with one of the best films done by DC so far. I am putting it right next to The Dark Knight. I mean, yes, it's such an incredible performance. And I'm really looking forward to see, hopefully, how they can implement this into the future of DC's films. Only time will tell. But this was definitely really well done, and definitely in a good direction. So now, at our number one, we are down to number one, our favorite movie of the year. And this was one that did not have an initial release in theaters, one that was long awaited, and one that definitely put
a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah, and definitely put these actors who have been in the game for a long time, really put them to the test, right?
And of course, we're talking about
The Irishman.
Directed by the wonderful Martin Scorsese.
Mm-hmm. Very esteemed. And you know, Martin Scorsese is part of the generation of one of the first people to ever go to film school.
Yes.
Him, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, they were among the first people to ever go to film school and become Hollywood directors. This was a Netflix original released film. And I just got to say, I mean, it's so impressive. I was skeptical at first, to be honest.
Right.
With the de-aging CG that they did with Robert De Niro and the aging CG they did with Joe Pesci. And I mean, it seems like these three guys are inseparable. Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, and Martin Scorsese. I mean, this is reminiscent of Goodfellas and Casino, but also very different roles for these actors, as well as Al Pacino had a great performance.
Yeah, it was a very interesting, I almost want to say a refreshing movie.
Absolutely, because I mean, this was a different role for each one of them. I mean, neither De Niro or Al Pacino were the boss here, but that's a different role for them in terms of this, mob movie, right?
Yeah, like I said, it's a refreshing seeing Scorsese back in. Yeah. I almost want to say he's back in his prime again.
This one, yeah, I mean, oh, dude, the visuals in this were so impressive, and every shot so well crafted and so well planned. With the blocking too. I mean, that's one thing that Martin Scorsese does so well that people will always go back to the opening smooth cam dolly shot from Goodfellas. It's one shot going through an entire restaurant, and it's very impressive. There's other reasons why Goodfellas is so good, because it's so historically accurate.
Yes.
But Martin Scorsese is unmatched, as he's what one would call an auteur. He has his own signature style that is so instantly recognizable and so well crafted in how he visually tells a story. And on top of that, like, seeing such an amazing performance from these actors who have been around for such a long time, put in totally different shoes, it was very impressive. So just the process as to how this film was made, how difficult it was to make this film, and how well executed it was.
Yeah,
come on, man.
Come on, it was also expensive.
Insanely expensive. Between the CG it took for the de-aging and aging, and as well as it was a streaming film. This film wasn't initially put in the box office. People were watching this on subscription on Netflix. So this was definitely a challenging film, but very, very well executed film. So definitely number one for the year, I gotta say. And I don't think too many people will argue with us.
Of course.
Yeah. My God, we still have a decade to go.
Oh God.
Oh my God.
Oh, can you believe we've been here for nearly an hour and a half?
This might be our longest cast to date.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. We were expecting this. We were expecting a long cast. I mean, Jesus. Jeez. Need some water. Anyway.
All right, you want to kick off the next list?
Now we must go over our top 10 films of the decade. And I'm pretty excited about this.
Of course.
This one, I feel we had a lot more fun coming up with this list than we did with the games.
Yes, because games and movies are a little bit, as much as they're both medias, both of them have different ways of being.
There's different forms of appreciation between a game and a movie. But yeah, pretty much nearly if not all of these films on our list,
or easily,
these were all either award-winning or record-setting, groundbreaking. Like every single one of these movies on this list made a massive impact on the industry.
Of course.
On the film industry, on visual storytelling, whether it was the story, whether it was cinematography and direction or editing or acting and performance. These were all amazing films. So let's go ahead and start off with number 10, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was a really visually appealing movie.
This was the best animated film of last year. This was an Oscar-winning animated film, and if that doesn't say enough, and on top of that, it's a comic book film.
Yes.
That took very well meshed stories from nearly every adaptation of Spider-Man, between the Amazing Spider-Man, the Ultimate Spider-Man, of course, our protagonist, Miles Morales, Spider-Gwen, Spider-Man Noir, Peter Porker, Penny Parker.
And I believe Ultimate Spider-Man?
I said that, Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, sorry. It's very well crafted in terms of the art style.
Amazing art style and animation.
Which is also where I want to bring up, where it blended other art styles easily.
Absolutely. So versatile.
It
was ingenious.
And of course, sound design from art.
Oh my God. Great sound design. Absolutely. Great soundtrack too.
The soundtrack is also the one thing I want to say that helped the movie even more.
Absolutely. And every character was very well fleshed out. Very relatable characters with Miles Morales, both versions of Peter Parker and Spider-Gwen. Just a great storytelling, great integration of each adaptation of Spider-Man and their backstories, and amazing art style,
and of course
great voice acting performance too.
Oh yes.
Oh my God.
As of course, this movie also left you wanting more, but if you have seen the movie already, you know already the news that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2 has been announced.
That's right. There's going to be a sequel.
Which will be picking up, I believe, probably a couple months after this first movie.
Really, this movie made me so happy. I wanted to watch it like 5 more times after watching. I mean, it checked every box and then some. This was a great film and an impeccable animated movie for the decade. Yeah,
for me personally, with all the Spider-Man movies, I had some difficulties adjusting to them. But this one, from the get-go, as soon as the first beat started, I'm in. It was a ride.
Absolutely. All right, so on number 9, okay, dude, this movie set box office records and ushered in a whole new cult of regular moviegoers.
Of course. We're talking about the one and only Avengers.
Yeah.
The original.
The first one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not talking about the 1990s ones. We're talking about the 2010s. I'm sorry, I forgot what year this movie came out, but it came out during this decade.
Yeah, the Avengers, setting box office records.
First time bringing in all of your favorite superheroes together.
Dude, well, here's another thing that made the Avengers so great is that before the Avengers and before the MCU in general, half of the Avengers no one really knew or even cared about. You know, like before the MCU, there was not a big fan base for Captain America or Iron Man. Definitely not for Black Widow or Hawkeye.
Oh, hell no.
People knew about Thor. People liked Hulk. But
Iron Man, they're like, oh, rich prick.
Dude, people didn't care about those heroes for a long time, but what the Avengers, like I said, they ushered in a whole new type of fan, a whole new moviegoer.
Yeah.
You know, this thing was an instant classic, and it broke records. This was a groundbreaking film of the decade.
Each sequel that had the Avengers title in it kept breaking more and more records.
And I mean, and it was the moment you see Marvel Studios, you already have such a high and great expectation for the movie, and this was one that set that standard, and has created such a massive and diverse and loving fan base ever since. So gotta give it to the Avengers. Had to be on this list for sure. Next up, another one from Chris Evans, in our number 8 spot. Talking about Snowpiercer, man.
It's a very underrated movie.
Totally underrated movie from this decade.
We're not talking about the show. We're talking about the movie.
The movie with Chris Evans.
And of course, shoot, I forgot his. Yeah, but it's a very, very great
cast.
Great cast. Very wonderful universe to look into.
Of very impressive world building.
That's what I want to say. It's a
very impressive world building to this narrative, and of the story in general is just so well fleshed out in terms of the characters, like very much very well fleshed out characters, and a very complete world build, and on top of that, just great visual storytelling here.
And of course, a lot of supporting cast.
A great supporting cast.
Cast.
Really, Snowpiercer as an impeccable cast overall.
I mean, we're talking about from John Hurt to Octavia Spencer,
Absolutely.
even Ed Harris.
Oh man, John Hurt's character was so great. Oh man, Snowpiercer. If you haven't checked it out, you got to check this movie out. I don't want to give a summary for this one, is because I don't want to spoil anything.
Just even talking about what the movie is about is a good spoiler.
It's definitely an experience to behold.
Yes,
I gotta say, and totally underrated for this.
When I first heard about the movie, I knew nothing about it. I sat down. I didn't even leave the seat until it was done.
It's an experience. It holds your attention.
Yes,
it is a thrill. Absolutely, check out Snowpiercer if you haven't already. Well, this next one is an essential. This one will probably be on every list.
Of course, we're talking about the one mind-bending movie.
Oh my god, and so
literally
impressive.
Literally mind-bending. We're talking about the wonderful Inception.
Inception is probably number 1 for some people out there.
This is the one movie I'm still rewatching, and I'm still learning about it.
It's so finely crafted.
I don't want to say
and its story and visuals. I mean, Inception brought new ideas to the table.
From the way they filmed everything to the world build.
Oh my god, so impressive. Great cast too, great performances all around with Inception. Definitely one that everyone has appreciated. If you've seen it, I mean, come on. This is a no-brainer.
This is probably one of the movies you need to see before you die.
It's a very impressive movie, very entertaining, thrilling, mind-boggling, mind-bending, confusing. Very impressive film. Like, in terms of its editing and film, everything is so well polished with Inception. And a great performance from Leonardo DiCaprio, of course. Who was in quite a few on our list.
I think at this point I want to say it's safe to say that I think we enjoyed Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, I mean, it's only like people have been wanting him to be an award-winning actor for a long time up until 2016.
I don't know. I'm
just saying. I don't know.
It's an opinion.
I have no say in the Academy, but here in Phantastic Productions, the Off Our Podcast, he's our boy. Anyway, another one starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Talking about Django Unchained on our number 6 spot. Oh man, this one's a thrill, man.
Oh, every scene is just a brand new mood.
And another another great direction from Quentin Tarantino, and a great performance from Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx, of course, Leonardo DiCaprio, and other guest stars.
Yeah.
Even the original Django shows up in the movie.
Yep, a cameo.
It's not a spoiler because he doesn't bring anything to the table. It's just a nod.
It's a great cameo. Yeah. A great remake, great retelling, reimagination of Django. Down to its visuals and editing, and incredible performances from his cast.
Yeah, of course, it's Quentin Tarantino knows what he's doing from both storytelling and cast selection, especially with the supporting cast.
Absolutely.
I also want to give a small honorable mention to Christopher Waltz in the movie as being the main support cast.
Oh yeah,
for our main person. And
great dialogue. It's another thing that people look over sometimes with Quentin Tarantino movies. That this one should not be looked over. Great dialogue and Django Unchained, iconic, I would say.
But I do have to give a big warning that if you are very sensitive to racial language,
it is not family friendly film.
It is not.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Even though it's technically historically accurate in terms of language.
Yeah, reasonably, yeah.
In some ways.
Yeah. But Django Unchained, so badass.
Of course, it's also...
Gotta give it to him.
Some scenes are actually reminiscent to the John Woo movies.
Yeah. Yep.
Even though it's not gun fu, it's a lot of shootout and blood.
Mm-hmm. Definitely really...
Check it out.
No, yeah, definitely really impressive in its fight scenes and stunts as well. Very unique as well. Well, I don't know, number 5 list. This one had a pretty big impact on in cinema. I mean, this movie was pretty inspiring for a lot of young filmmakers.
Of course, yeah, of course. It's not as much as a lot of people enjoy the movie. It's not very talked about in terms of
it's not the biggest one in the mainstream, I would say.
It's really not.
I would say that this one's more of a niche, but still definitely one that got a lot of critical praise, and I think checked off every single box. For number 5, our pick is Drive. Movie
starring Mr. Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had a small stroke. Had a small strunk.
This actually did. I gotta say, like, people don't really give Ryan Gosling a lot of credit. This one kind of just fit. This one kind of just worked for him.
Yeah.
This was a pretty good performance from him. I don't know if it was just that. I don't know if he was just born for that role, but this one worked for him.
It fit like a glove.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
Yeah. Drive. I mean, another great story and great visual storytelling here. And like I said, a surprisingly impressive performance from Ryan Gosling. And yeah, this was one that had a pretty big impact on the industry. This is one that I talked to a lot of people, in new to film and in film school. This is one that inspired a lot of people.
Even of course there's an actual game that gives a nod to it.
Yeah.
Hotline Miami.
Mm-hmm.
The main character wears a similar jacket.
Yeah. Oh, the jacket. Oh, dude, I want that jacket.
It's
so bad.
that wonderful. Yes.
I want it so. It's so badass. So clean.
It's leather. Come on.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's great.
Of course, it's a wonderful movie. Anything we're mentioning on this list is wonderful.
Yeah. Drive, definitely a good one. Check it out if you haven't already. Don't know what you've been watching, but come on, Drive.
Of course, onto our list, number 4.
Another incredible
movie.
Sci-fi story, a journey, if you will, a visual journey. I'm talking about Interstellar, John. Come on, you know what I'm talking about.
Come on, you know this.
For our number 4 spot, we're talking about Interstellar, featuring Matthew McConaughey. This was a pretty good role for him, I gotta say.
It's
Ryan.
Matthew
McConaughey is another guy that like everyone knows, but doesn't get too much credit.
It's coming. I believe this was around the same time where he was coming off the Lincoln Lawyer.
Yeah.
Him playing another serious role. He's been playing a lot of serious roles recently. I don't want.
This was a more serious role, but this is one that I think was pretty well pulled off. This is a pretty good performance, if you ask me.
Yeah. This movie was very from the writing to the actual visual appeal.
Dude,
it's very visually appealing.
It's so visually impressive. That's what really made it for me. What was the direction of cinematography and editing?
What was also funny is they technically helped out science with this movie as well by accident.
That's the funny part of it, right?
They helped out by accident.
It was meant to be a sci-fi movie. It's like, oh no,
we're accurate.
Yeah, you made a good point there.
Well, yeah,
it's crazy.
Funny thing is about quick little side note.
Go ahead.
They talked to top physicists about black holes in the movie.
Yep.
And they took all the numbers, they put it into a game and basically an engine to render it out.
Yeah, they simulated it.
And by accident, they figured out how black hole is really supposed to look like. And they kept saying, "No, this has to be wrong." Physicists are like, "Nope, you actually discovered how it's supposed to look like."
They were not far off on how they rendered that black hole.
And I think 3 years later, we actually got a full, like, near photo.
A photo, yeah. Surprising.
Yeah.
Very surprising.
Like, oh, it's a.
But nonetheless, very impressive.
It's a very visually appealing movie. Of course, it tugs on your heartstrings.
Yeah. Also, with the black hole part, even if they were wrong, I mean, it's not like they were trying to be right. And either way, very visually impressive, and kind of a well executed stunt in the editing room.
Of course, it's again, it's another movie you have to watch before you die.
You gotta check it out.
And it also kicked off technically a trilogy.
Let's not call it that,
because we're gonna be calling.
I see what segue you're doing here for number three. Yeah, for number 3 spot.
We're talking about the wonderful personal favorite movie,
The Martian.
The Martian,
featuring Matt Damon.
Yes,
great movie based off a book,
which
but very very well executed. Pretty good loyalty on their end with how they made the movie.
After I watched the movie, I decided, let me read the book. It's the one movie that actually did follow the book closely. They just cut out probably I want to say like one half of the movie.
And it was true to a lot of the signs. I mean, Neil deGrasse Tyson
Tyson. They had actual astronauts talk about training and all that.
It was very impressive in how loyal not only was the film to the book and its adaptation, but also how loyal the writing was to theoretical science and to actual say astronomical experiences and space.
It's almost like, I want to say it's adventure like / comedy, because some parts it actually does. Some parts are funny in the movie.
Yeah.
But again,
that's a quality of that. It was very well written and versatile in its enjoyment, I would say. But this is one that, I mean, great performances all around and was pretty impressive visually, but a lot of people appreciated how accurate the science was and how loyal of an adaptation it was.
This was around the same time the Alien movies were coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And funny enough, this was actually directed by Ridley Scott himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spaceman. Yeah. Again, if you do watch the movie, I do also recommend reading the book, because the book is it's more accurate, and plus it's even funnier. Yeah,
but nonetheless, I mean, Ridley Scott is brilliant behind the camera and definitely delivered on this one. That's why I made it our number 3 spot.
And of course, we move on to the
number 2. I told John, I was like, hey, this is gonna be on here. It's gonna be top 3.
I don't give a
fuck what you think. This movie is a marvel.
I'm still recovering from the black eye.
Get it?
You shut up.
It's a marvel.
I'm gonna hit you.
Even though it's not canon.
I'm gonna hurt you.
But it's such a good story. And oh my God, the direction on this movie, John. I'm talking about Logan. I'm talking about my boy. I'm talking about Hugh Jackman, the old man. He's not that old, but he plays an old-ass Wolverine, Logan.
Technically, he was old already, but still.
But old. We're talking old, decaying Logan.
Yeah.
And this, I mean, it's technically telling the end of a long era of Wolverine.
It's an arc. It's a final arc.
It's a massive and important final arc and such an amazing execution. Took a lot of old-fashioned methods in terms of shots. Was very reminiscent of old westerns, old spaghetti westerns.
Yeah.
And that fits so perfectly in the aesthetic of its late aesthetic and its just its place in the X-Men story. Even though it's kind of like a what if type
scenario.
Yeah.
It does spin off of the Old Man Logan comics.
Exactly. No, it's not, to be fair, it's not a true
adaptation.
Of Old Man Logan, but it's a great inspiration and just an amazing film. Like
you can rewatch it.
This is another one that like people, and including me, were comparing to The Dark Knight.
Essentially,
for being one of the best comic book movies ever made. People were calling it among the best action movies made, which is saying a lot. That's bold, very bold, but this movie deserves a lot of credit.
And I don't blame it.
Yeah.
No.
Go watch Logan.
Yeah, you might as well just go do that now.
Now, hey, before we tell everybody our number one spot, we have a few. Once again, we have a few individual awards. We got two this time. Got two of them.
We're not going all the way.
Got two of them. You want to tell the first one? I know you liked this movie.
I like it.
You were trying to get it on the list. In fact,
it
almost did make the list. In fact,
I nearly filibustered it on. I almost filibustered in.
Yeah, but it got its own award,
and
given by you and I, the two co-hosts of the Off Air podcast.
We're probably the only people that made this award.
Coming from the warm hearts of Phantastic Productions.
I don't like.
Go ahead.
I don't like your attitude. Of course, I'm going to be talking about the wonderful 10 Cloverfield Lane. Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting movie. Of course, the award we're giving it is best revival of, or in a way, a best sequel to the original Cloverfield movie.
I see it's the best installment, man.
I just want to say, yeah, it's great in the installment of the universe.
Yeah, and
10 Cloverfield Lane, it's a very interesting horror / thriller.
Yeah,
it's more thriller than horror.
Yeah, but this is another one that got a lot of praise, and I think it checked every box really. This was a visual thriller and a great.
Same week it came out, I went to the theater and bought IMAX and sat dead center watching it.
You still have
I have
you got exclusive posters for that movie.
I got all 3 collectible posters.
Yeah.
It's still sitting in my closet in their like bags.
But I mean,
it's a great movie if you want to just experience more of a riveting like thriller.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. If you're a fan of thrillers, you got to check out 10 Cloverfield Lane. This one, I mean, it's across the board, like very high ratings and just a very impressive execution overall.
I can't say so much about the rest of the series, but
this one in particular, hence the award.
Yes.
Of its revival, of it being such a great installment.
Of course, this movie also takes its same inspiration from the original Cloverfield Lane.
Of course.
With the original advertisement of using ARGs.
Yes.
Of course, everyone's going to be taking this movie apart for years again.
Oh, I bet. Absolutely.
Now, this one's your personal pick.
Oh, yeah. I had to say that I thought we should include this one. Just because, so... well, John and I are both big fans of anime.
So is Samuel L. Jackson.
We weren't going to talk about anime. We weren't going to make a list about that because that's
another
a massive media on its own.
No matter how many we pick, someone's still going to be complaining about it.
Yeah, I mean, and so many good shows came out this decade. There were some good shows that came out this year.
I don't have enough time to watch everything.
Neither of us do. No one does. There's so much. But there was one film in particular that I've never seen such a well-crafted, cell animated film in my life.
This is one movie.
This movie was revolutionary and broke records. Took spots that were held for over a decades by Miyazaki's own, by Ghibli Studios films, by Spirited Away, and Castle in the Sky and House Moving Castle.
All
this movie took spots from these
gods.
Classics.
These gods.
I'm talking about Your Name, and I'm calling it the best animated film of the decade. If you haven't checked out Your Name, and both the sub and the dub cast are so well done as well.
It's especially surprising for a full-length movie with a dub on such a well animated, to the point where the translation is nearly
seamless.
1-for-1. It's 1-for-1.
Yeah, like there are purists out there. Everyone has a preference when it comes to anime. They're not gonna get into that discussion today. But just an incredibly written story based off a light novel, amazing cast, amazing performance, and the animation is unmatched. I mean, you can just tell how so much work, so much time, so much effort and care was put into this film. I mean, there are areas of animation that are done, keep in mind, which are done organically, cell animation, that are indistinguishable from real-time film. I mean...
Right. This is the one film I can say that if you were in that world, you can literally walk up to the background and you can tell what it is.
It's so finely tuned and so gorgeous.
The amount of detail.
It's mind-boggling how impressive this film is visually.
Essentially you can live in this world.
Yeah, like it is.
That's how very meticulous it is, and not only that, just the story will hook you on.
On top of that,
of course, I recommend you watch it. Depending who you are, you can either watch it with your friends, watch it by yourself, watch it with a loved one.
Absolutely. Check it out. Like, do it. Watch Your Name. I don't care how. I don't care if you stream it illegally. Do watch it.
Don't actually know. Support. So we want everyone to be supported. Don't illegally.
No, yeah.
This is the one movie we're actually saying.
Support it. Stream it. Like, so much work went into this.
This is the one movie I actually do say just don't even pirate it. All the other movies, you can probably pirate it. This one, you support him.
All right, let's not get too into that topic. But yeah, Your Name, check it out if you haven't already. All right, so now we have a long list of honorable mentions.
We gotta get this cut down.
Huh?
We gotta cut this down because we're about to hit the 2-hour mark.
Dude, I don't care. These all deserve at least a mention.
We're gonna mention it.
I'm going on the list, man.
All right, you want me to start? Or you want to start?
Let's go one for one.
All right, The Grand Budapest Hotel, loved it.
The Wolf of Wall Street,
Whiplash,
Black Swan,
Revenant,
Skyfall,
Get Out,
Evil Dead,
La La Land,
Moonlight,
Birdman,
Ragnarok,
What We Do in the Shadows.
So underrated. Check it out. Life of Pi,
Blade Runner,
Dunkirk,
Sicario,
and 12 Years a Slave.
All right. And the
now,
final movie of the decade.
The best movie of the decade. According to us, anyway. They're all opinions up to discussion. But this is an amazing film.
I don't care. It is number one for me.
I know it's your number one, John. Go ahead.
It is the wonderful Mad Max Fury Road.
There's religion around this movie.
There is God found.
But no, I mean, the editing of this movie is so well done.
Even though there's one as much as I love the movie and as much people want to complain about some of the acting,
I think it's a pretty good performance.
Yes.
But go ahead. Yeah.
Tom Hardy, a lot of people complain about how he acted. He even apologized about it, but
that's true. No, yeah, that's true.
This movie was well written, well directed. all the effects are practical.
Very well acclaimed. Oh my god! Yeah, that's another thing too.
Everything you see is practical, and no CGI.
Yeah, and like for me, that's what really got me with this movie was how difficult it was. Somewhere like how we're saying with The Irishman, how difficult it was to execute this movie, and how well executed it was. How well done it was. It was otherwise.
This movie was delayed because of weather.
Exactly. I mean,
that's how hard it was to film this movie.
There were so many ways that this movie could have gone
sideways,
so wrong, tragically wrong, and yet it's on dozens of other lists among top 10s, top 5s of the decade. Some people claim that it's their favorite movie.
Yeah,
it's flat out favorite action movie. If it's
playing right now, I would not mind just dropping anything and just watching it again.
It's great. It's rewatchable, and again, the editing is so well done. It brought some other methods to the table. It was pretty innovative.
Of course, a lot of the lighting filters are interesting. The color palettes of the movie visually appealing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there were different
from the day to the night.
There were a lot of daring and interesting moves made in this movie, but still, in its execution, were so well fitting, so well done, so well implemented. So I mean, there it is. That's a movie of the decade, and I mean, really,
of course,
like I said, there were so many ways it could have gone wrong, and yet they executed it so well in so many ways.
And just a cherry on top, the soundtrack.
Oh my god, the soundtrack is so great. The sound design.
The sound design from the vehicles to the natural storms.
Worship the V8.
All the way to the very war scene.
Yeah.
Technically it's the war scene.
Yeah. I don't know if I would say it's a movie for everyone, only because it is a very mature and unorthodox.
If you guys enjoy a lot of the original Mad Max movies, you can appreciate because it's also the same director.
That's true. You definitely need to appreciate that, and with that, I mean the visuals are very impressive too. A very well if anything, a very well directed and edited movie, especially with it being so traditionally put together, and so challenging to execute. If anything, definitely well directed and edited, let alone the amazing soundtrack. And, well, I think we're still some really good performances.
Oh, no, I'm not saying he had a bad performance, but Tom Hardy, he embraced who Mad Max was.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we also can appreciate all the other actors.
Of course. But yeah, still a great adaptation installment for the series, and it's a great movie overall. And
if you're a first-time viewer of the Mad Max series, you don't have to watch the other movies.
That's another great thing about it too. It's something that's not something that's always too appreciated, but I think is very welcome in this case, just because of how well done it was. And of course, again, appreciating this by the original director. Yeah. So those are our lists. Oh my god. You know how I feel. Oh, do you want to say your top 3 films of the decade?
I don't want to know.
No?
There's too many good movies to pick.
I'm just saying Logan's my number 1.
I want to say Mad Max.
That and Joker. Joker was probably my number 2.
Mad Max and Joker.
Mad Max is up there too.
Yeah.
Mad Max, Joker, and Logan. Logan's my number 1 though. Watch Logan.
Oh.
Go do it.
Never mind. I can say it. Mad Max, Logan.
If you don't do anything after this podcast, there's not... At least watch Logan or Mad Max, or go download The Witcher 3. Just saying, just throwing it out there if you want.
Well, here's my top 3. I can tell you.
Okay, go ahead.
Mad Max,
mm-hmm.
The Martian.
Oh, The Martian's great, of course.
Joker.
Okay.
Not in any particular order.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
That's the only time I can say it. No particular order.
But yeah. Okay. If you have a few dozen hours of time after this podcast, go ahead and download The Witcher 3.
But don't forget to join us back again.
Of course.
Hell, if
next year, next decade, yo.
You can just turn down the volume in game and pull us back up.
That's right.
Although
listen to us in the background.
Yeah.
Have us playing in the background while you're watching Mad Max Fury Road. Just saying. Appreciate the minutes. But nonetheless, this has been a really long cast, and we appreciate your time.
All I can say is, I love you.
But
to the viewer, not you, Chris.
Yeah, fuck you. Anyway, definitely check out all our links in the description as usual, and
tell us what you agreed with and what you did not.
Of course, yeah. Again, this is a discussion whether you want to talk about our choices of games or films. Let us know. We wanted also to do a list for music, but that's a whole other can of worms that is very complex that we just don't have the time for. Maybe we'll do it next year when we don't have to do lists about the entire decade. But nonetheless, we hope you enjoyed this. We should have 2 more videos coming out before the end of the year, not on the podcast, but on my personal channel and on the company channel. We'll have at least 2 going up before the end of the year and before the end of the decade. It's been a really important year, man.
It's been a very busy year.
This was the first year of the Off Air podcast, our first 21 episodes, which are now all available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, etc. We're on like 12 different platforms, man.
I think we're also on Apple Podcasts.
We are on Apple Podcasts.
Well, guess what? Go listen to on all of us.
Yeah.
Do it. Listen on all.
Yeah, you got 21 episodes to listen to before the end of the decade. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of episodes. Check us out.
Listen, right now is the 22nd.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not even Christmas yet. Come on now.
Come on now, homies. You got a week and some change.
But we also had our recent and first short film we posted a few weeks ago, Blood Brothers, that is on our main channel on YouTube. Definitely check that out. A lot of work went into that. It's not the longest film. It's a short film that we put together. It's the first one. And it's an action film. Not necessarily something easy to pull off for a couple of newbies, just pulling out a camera and writing a script. But yeah, I'm kind of rambling at this point. Definitely check that out. All the links will be in the description for all of our social media outlets and for our Anchor platform for our short film and other lists for games of the year, the decade, and movies of the year and the decade. Thank you so much for listening or watching. We'll see you next year.
Next year.
See you next decade.
All right.
All right.
All right.
All right.
End it.
Yeah. Oh my God, I need some water. I want to die.